Hi, so I'm going to be talking about smoking during pregnancy. So whenever we get a new patient where I work, we always ask if they use tobacco, and if so, then the next thing we would go into is, kind of talking about all the complications that can arise from using tobacco. There's a list of complications that can be caused with the fetus: low birth weight, preterm labor, fetal growth restriction. There's an increase of fetal and maternal mortality, asthma, and then even the baby can become addicted to nicotine and have withdrawals when the baby's born. So, every time that they come in for a visit, well, particularly the first visit, we'd ask, if they use tobacco, and then kind of educate them on, this is not the best thing for your baby, and you want to give your baby the best start, right? So we definitely advise that you try to quit smoking as soon as possible. If they are in agreement of, wanting to quit smoking, then it's time to come up with a plan and give them some resources. Here in Yuma, we have Yuma County has a tobacco use prevention group, I guess, that helps anyone that wants to stop smoking, that they will help them with that. There are phone helplines and web-based help, and so I would definitely recommend them looking into that. We would need to come up with a plan, and maybe we could chat about that in that first visit, especially if they say that they do smoke. Well, when do you think that you could set a goal for quitting smoking? How are we going to accomplish that? So are you going to just quit cold turkey, or is this going to have to be a process where maybe you cut back a little at a time? There are medications that could help with this that are they still present a little bit of a risk to the fetus. And then there's also nicotine replacement therapy, which is where the patches and gums and things like that, those can be used, but they are also at a risk to the baby. So you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons. Well, what's better, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, or using one of the patches to try to slowly come off of nicotine dependency. Each visit, we would just kind of revisit that conversation, and I like to put notes in my charting where it prompts me to think about what to ask each visit. So each visit, how's it going with the smoking? Have you been able to quit, or are you reaching your goals? What can I do to help support you reaching your goals? Also asking, let's see. Well, there's a few apps that I would, or at least one app that I would recommend, My Quit Coach, that they could help use to have some accountability. And then also asking, what are your triggers that make you want to smoke? If you work, do you take smoke breaks with someone? Is that something that we can help you avoid? Or instead of getting a snack, maybe you take a cigarette break, or, things like that. Things that can be changed or rearranged to help make those little changes that maybe it's not a routine of going in and smoking a cigarette. And then, yeah, that would just have to be asked every visit, doesn't have to be a lecture every visit, but just, how are you doing with that? How is that affecting your daily life right now? What can we do to help? Any kind of resources that I come up with, I can give them. I think we do have a handout on smoking also that we could give them that would help talk about how it's a teratogenic substance and that it is not good for the baby. Another thing is, when we think about smoking, it at least used to be I know because my dad used to be a smoker. We used to think that, you know, it's only hurting me. Like, I am choosing to do this. I'm an adult, but it's only hurting me. Obviously, we know when you're pregnant that that's not the case, because you are giving your baby oxygen, and whatever you put in your body is going to your baby also. So obviously that's not the case, but you have to think about after the baby is born, second and third hand smoke. That used to not be a thing so much in my generation growing up, because my dad smoked in our house his whole life. And then later on we realized how bad that was. But secondhand smoke is, you know, everybody around you unfortunately has to breathe in any smoke that you're exhaling. So I didn't have a choice as a child growing up, you know, that my dad smoked and we all inhaled all of that. And later on my mom got cancer. So don't know if it's related or not, but you know, you're affecting everyone around you. So even after this baby is born, you want to give your baby the best start through pregnancy, but then also, you know, you're going to be around this baby all the time. Yes, you may be able to step outside and smoke, but third hand smoke is when the residue of the cigarettes is on your clothes, your skin, fabrics, in your car, all of that. That's also dangerous to anyone that comes in contact with those materials. So these are all things that we know now are significant risk that you wouldn't want your child to have to deal with, you know, potentially causing health issues for them later on down the road, or yourself. You want to be your healthiest version of yourself, of course, but just speaking about the baby, it's just, you would have to shower every single time you take you smoked a cigarette or whatever, to avoid third hand smoke. So it's almost inevitable that your baby, regardless of how you go about smoking, you know, is going to be affected by cigarettes. So it's best if you can try to stop now. Yeah, so I have some resources, and women.smokefree.gov has a page. It's called Quit for Two, and it has some helpful links, and I'll link all those below. And then the app, My Quit Coach. But I think your best bet is just to set a goal, you know, like a date. I want to be done with this by this certain date, and put it into actionable steps so it's realistic. So, you know, you're going to cut back. You're not going to go on that cigarette break that you usually go on. You know, what are the triggers? You know, if stress is a trigger for you to smoke, then what are you going to do to compensate for that and take care of that trigger instead of relying on nicotine?